Welcome to Fresh Off the Set. I'm Carrie Hawker-Diaz.
And I'm Brooke Mangum. Thanks so much for joining us for another fun-filled episode today.
Yes, I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon. And we're going to make it even better because today we're talking with Steve. You know him as the Foodie Fellowship. We love him.
I hope you've done your stretches today, Carrie, because are you going to be able to do the Foodie Fellowship signature split?
Maybe we need to do right now a little stretching. Oh my gosh.
You'll have to help me get off the ground because I will tear in half if I try and do that right now.
So what we're talking about, if you're not familiar with this, Steve he has a food blog, right? That's his thing, but he also does the splits very well.
Yes, and he falls into it so effortlessly. It's kind of his thing when he goes to a different restaurant. He poses with the food and he does the splits. And it's like, he's not the type of person you think could do the splits.
No.
And he just does it.
He does it, and he does it really well. Well, and I think that's part of his personality, right? He's very easy to hang out with. He's really friendly. That's why he has the fellowship, because he's so nice.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to get to know him better because we've obviously had him on the show, but we only get to talk for 3.5 minutes.
We get a lot more time with him. You get to know his middle name because we only know him as Steve. So tune in for that and some other things that he loves too.
The man behind the splits and the Foodie Fellowship.
I love it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I am so pumped to interview our next guest on our podcast. Okay, now I'm hungry because I see Steve and he walks in and I'm like, where's the good food? Because he knows all the great places. You know him as Foodie Fellowship, our friend Steve. You've seen him on the show. Steve, welcome to the podcast.
The honor and pleasure is always mine, Carrie.
Oh my goodness. We just love having you here. And I said when you walked in, I said, I'm so excited to get you for 20, 25 minutes instead of the 3.5 that we usually, because it's so much better.
Oh, so much more engagement, so much more in depth.
That's right. Really we get to know you a little better. Okay, we'll start with, if people aren't familiar with your following and what you do, tell us what you do.
So I'm just, a food blogger, food Instagram, a food social media guy here locally in Utah.
Food king.
I guess you could say that.
Basically, yes. Have you always had a love for food and trying new restaurants, or was this kind of like a newer thing?
I've always had a love for it. So both my parents worked growing up. My dad was a carpet layer, and my mom worked for Delta Airlines. So it's just they didn't have the time to always cook a quality meal for us. So it was for most families, it's rare to go out to eat, but it was the opposite for us. It was rare to eat at home. So I just grew up with the convenience of eating out almost every day.
Sure. Now, when did you start posting about new places to eat on social media, and when did you start that?
So my New Year's resolution, I always wanted to I love social media. I love just the influencer concept. So my New Year's resolution for 2019 was to start a food Instagram. So January 1st started my first post, and here we are.
So 2019?
Yep, January 1st, 2019.
Goodness. Okay, what have you learned along the way? What do you do now that maybe you did differently back then?
What do I do now that I do differently back then? I guess, it's hard to say. I feel like I was more aggressive back then because I was so excited to get started.
Yeah.
And the algorithms have made it more complicated. But, it's still lots of fun. But I think people get too uptight about specific things when it comes to social media and posting. It's all about having fun, right? If you're not having fun, then what's the point?
That's so true. I think that's why you have a good following, too, is not only do you bring us great ideas in restaurants, but you have a great following. You're funny. That's why you're funny. Okay, so when did you start to see that huge following?
I would say, I made it consistent to post every day. So I was going out every single day. I had an LLC I set up, so I was writing off the expenses because as an advertising expense. So it was just okay, this is great, we're going. And, probably after, I'd say 6 months, I started really getting good traction. People are starting to take notice. And I started going to different food events, meeting other foodies, because then you co-collaborate with everyone, and it just kind of amplifies.
Yeah.
And I met your beautiful self as well.
Oh, I love it. You're so nice.
Fresh living, and that helps too. So just getting through all the different ways where you can create the amplification helps.
Sure. Is that kind of how you grew your following? Do you think by collabing with other foodies too?
Yeah, and there's lots of different ways. So there's collabing with foodies, and then obviously every restaurant, if they're active on social media, have their own following, so you collaborate with them. You collaborate with all the local news sources. It's just it's your network, right? Everyone says your network's your best asset, and I believe that, right?
Mm-hmm. So. Absolutely. And I wonder too, if people just love food, right? We just all love, especially after, I don't know, COVID, we're all looking for the comfort of food, and I just feel like it just brings people together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love about going with food. We live in such a polarizing world with religion and politics. We as humans, we all have to come together and enjoy something like that we can all have connection over, and that's food for the most part. Obviously, there's people who are strong vegans and whatever, but for the most part, we all eat it. We all eat the same things, and so that's one thing that can bring us together, despite our differences and whatever they may be.
That's very true. It's what we can all talk about and feel connected when we're at the table is food. Did you want to or think you would ever end up where you are, or has this been kind of a surprise?
I always wanted to do something. So again, I love social media. And then I just walked into a restaurant one day and I saw like another influencer had like written on the chalk, it was actually Utah Foodie, if you know her.
Oh yeah, love her.
R&R, and I'm like, I could do that. Like, why am I not doing it? That was just kind of the epiphany, and then I started it for fun, and it just kind of took off. I really put like my personality into it. It wasn't just something like I kind of half-butted, I guess you could say.
Right. You went all in.
Yeah.
So. And that's what you do. That's why you do so well. What are your favorite places to eat? Let's talk about some of the favorite ones for our locals here in Utah.
Oh, geez. There's so many. My go-to, if you ever get up to Perry and Maddox Ranch Kitchen, I believe it's called.
I love Maddox.
Just for the rolls, like if you don't get anything else, like I've never had a roll like that in my life. It melts in your mouth. It's like the celestial kingdom in your mouth.
It's just so good. It's so good. I don't know what it is with the rolls.
And the butter with it, like it's just like you're on cloud nine. And then of course their steaks, their chicken are all great. That's like, not very many people get up that north.
But if you live up there, that's nice because it's close to you. You're lucky.
Absolutely. Downtown, Valters is an all-time classic. I don't know if you've been. It's pricey, but like it's definitely the best Italian food in Utah.
Yeah, I've been definitely an experience. So sad to hear about his passing because he created something so magical, and I know it's going to continue because of him. He is a legend. But you're right, that restaurant's incredible.
Love that. I love Ruth's Diner up in Immigration Canyon for breakfast. They have the Mile High biscuit. They have all those biscuits you can eat. Something I've always been a fan. Like it's people who really like are pizza artisan hate when I say this, but I love the pie pizza. Like. Just because it's so cheesy, I'm a real cheesy guy. Like it, when in those cartoons where you see the character like pull up the cheese and it's just like dripping cheese.
That's what the pie does.
That's like for me, So
what if you're in a hurry and you're just going through a drive-through? Do you have a quick thing that you just love?
Quick drive-through food. I mean, let's see here. They have a million of them around. I know people are going to think this is unpopular, but every once in a while, a good Beto's run,
Beto's is good.
Like, I remember when it first came to my town, and I was just like, my friends loved it. I'm like, why would I eat here? This looks like just a hole in the wall. And then I tried it, and I'm like, wow, I see why people come here,
It's
all
really
the time.
good.
Yeah.
We have a lot of great options here in Utah. Do you have a favorite kind of food?
I'd say arguably my favorite food is Mexican food. But I mean, I like mostly everything. Mm-hmm. But as I was evaluating, I'm like, what do people like? What am I posting about? But it's always something with melted cheese, right? So it's like
the pie, Beto's, anything with cheese.
There you go. Yep.
Do you have a favorite Mexican restaurant? Is Beto's kind of your go-to, or do
No,
you have other ones?
No. It's good. It's good, like good food, but not great food, I would say.
Yeah.
I really love a place in Provo called El Gallo Hierro. And
in Provo?
Yep, in Provo, right there on University Avenue. Rio Grande is also really good. It used to be at the Rio Grande train station, but it's up by the U now.
Okay.
There's a little place called Santo Taco as well I really like.
Oh, yeah, that one's great too.
Love them. There's another one I'm missing off the top of my head. There's a couple new ones I've been wanting to try, like La Casa de Tamal, but I haven't gotten there yet. But
we'll follow up with you after that.
Please do.
We'll follow up. Okay, so we always see your pictures, obviously on Instagram and social, and they're just like these beautiful pictures of delicious food. Do you have any tips or tricks? Because I feel like there's got to be something to getting those good food pics and videos.
It was all through trial and error, right? So, I mean, I wasn't going to invest in heavy duty cameras, and I just use my iPhone, right? So,
okay.
I mean, if you see lots of foodies out in the wild, like some people do, like they'll have an extra light with them because some places are dark. But I mean, this really just
like a ring light. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, or ring light, or even just like a hand light, like. I like to keep it simple. Like I'll grab my wife's iPhone and just if it's dark, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I like to. I'm just all about angles. There's angles that I find.
You just find
the sexier angles, right?
You just figure out what works. Make that burrito look good.
Right, make it look good. Or obviously now we're getting more into video just because of all the algorithms changing. So I'll get more pictures of me, like doing a slow mo of me eating it, or like a stretch pull of cheese or whatever. Right?
Okay, that was my next question. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more reels and videos. And are you on TikTok too?
I am. So.
Okay, so more videos. Has that been hard to transition into more video?
I would say it's definitely more preparation, right? Where a picture you go in, I I typically like to, the camera doesn't reveal like what I want to see, so I'll do a little bit of Lightroom to just highlight and extract the colors a little more. But video, you have to prepare it, you have to record it, and then you have to edit it to your liking, right? So it's more work, but that's just the way things are going now.
It's so true. People want to see pictures and video, especially now, videos.
But it's fun too. Like, you can get your personality to come out of it a little more too, but it is more work. So it just depends how, where things go.
A little bit more work. For people who want to start a foodie following on social media, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. Don't get too uptight. Just have fun. Like, it's all about enjoying, like, why are you starting? Remember why you're starting. Are you starting it because you want to grow a following? Are you starting it because you just have a pure love of food? A little bit of both. Like, I started just because, honestly, I hated my daytime job at the time, and I wanted something to express myself, and I loved food, and I just, it was something fun for me, and it grew. Like, so I would just, start with your iPhone. It doesn't have to be an expensive thing aside from the food. Take pictures, post it. And then as you team, you'll get better at your photo skills and your editing skills, and then you'll meet more people, and then it just becomes like a friendship community. You meet amazing people. Like, I never would have met Carrie if it wasn't for, the opportunity of doing food, right? So,
well, we're always so lucky to have you on, and I feel like that's great advice, because people may look at this and see, oh, I have, thousands of dollars of cameras and lights and everything, but that's not necessarily the way that you need to start.
No, and you don't. Like, there's some food, like I went to an event on Sunday night. One of the other foodies, they had like lights and a nice camera. And so I have the new iPhone, and that takes good enough for me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I do have a camera, but unless it's a real special occasion, I want it to be as relatable to the regular consumer as possible.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Do you do this full time, or do you have another job?
No, I do have a full-time job. I am in tech sales, but this is just a fun side thing I do. And then I own a few Airbnbs, some here in Utah and one in Florida. So
okay, all right, love it. How is your influencing expanded over the last year? Do you see it just continuing to grow, and maybe in just different ways?
It's grown. Obviously, as I've gotten involved in other side business projects, I haven't put as much time into it.
Yeah,
but it's still growing, but not as quick as it initially did. But obviously, it's just kind of like, it's like a flower. You just got to keep nurturing it. If you neglect it, then it just kind of dies, right? So I'm always trying to, trying new videos with my wife, and trying, especially, people do stuff with trending sounds now, right? So it's like, if I see a quick trending sound that's easy to post and relates to food, like, that way I can just keep nurturing it. I want to keep growing it, right? Like, the dream would be to have a large national brand, but that's just like, no one's really, I guess there's a few people, right? But like, I don't know if that necessarily answers your question.
A dream is never too big, Steve. It's never too big. And I love this about you too. The splits. People just know Steve is like, he does the food thing, but also he does the splits. When did this start? How long have you been doing the splits, and how did it catch on?
So I wanted to play college football, and I just thought, man, if I could do the splits and have that flexibility, I'll just hurdle over those defenders, And so I started stretching my junior year of high school. Sadly, college football never worked out for me, but I just kind of started doing it. So I was like 2007 roughly, and then I perfected the split in about 2011. But I was doing like lazy stretching, like just getting a little bit, and then little by little, I finally developed the full split. And now here I am today. I've just kind of done it. Like, what other 6'3" big burly white guy can do the splits, right? And so that's just kind of like my staple. I can throw out my cheap party trick whenever I want to.
Splits and burritos.
There you go.
You got this. I love it. Okay, we like to end our podcast always with the Fresh Five. These are questions I'm going to ask you just off the top of my head. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Winter or summer?
Summer.
Scary movie or romantic comedy?
Romantic comedy.
Ooh, got it. If you could have any animal as a pet, what would it be? And we're talking any animal.
Like any animal?
Uh-huh.
Cow.
A cow. A cow. I love it. We'll name it Foodie. Do you eat or do you drink soup? How do you see it? Do you eat soup or do you drink soup?
One of my deepest, darkest fantasies is to go to Zupa's and get like a Wisconsin cauliflower thing, and a tomato basil in like gallon jugs and just sip on it. Like, go to the Megaplex and just sip on it.
So you're saying you drink.
Yeah.
Okay, we drink soup.
But I wanted to reveal that fantasy to you.
It can happen. It can happen. Okay, our last one. Do you have a middle name?
It's Daniel.
Daniel.
There you go.
Okay, we always hear Steve Foodie Fellowship.
Right.
Daniel. Okay, that's great. Steve, if we want to follow you, where can we go?
Foodie Fellowship, but foodie spelled with a Y at the end instead of IE. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, foodiefellowship.com. So
you can follow him for all the delicious spots to go here in Utah and outside of Utah, and all the yummy pictures. They'll make you hungry. Steve, thanks so much.
Again, the honor and pleasure is always mine.
We love having you here. And thanks for listening to another episode of Fresh Off the Set. Please rate, review, and subscribe. And we will see you next week. Congrats, you made it to the end. If you want to continue to freshen up your day, you can watch us on Fresh Living every weekday on CBS Channel 2 in Utah at 1 o'clock. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, KUTV Fresh Living, and follow us on social media. We will see you next week.